Hi, Taylor. I got your email and I just started typing and I realized that it would just be way, way easier if I just kind of talked you through it really quickly. So I'm just going to make a quick like screencastify and then I'll just share the video with you. So Von Thunen and bid rent are connected, but they aren't the same. This is the Von Thunen model. And so the Von Thunen model argues that there are certain areas that farmers or people that work in agriculture are going to want to set up shop. So this is kind of like Weber from Unit 7, where you have to figure out where is the most profitable place for you to locate near the market, right? And so profitability comes in a couple different ways when we're talking about agriculture. So on the one hand, like you might be a dairy farmer or somebody who works in market gardening, so you sell fresh fruits and vegetables. So you have a pretty perishable product, like milk will spoil, vegetables will go bad. And so it's going to be best for you to set up shop closest to the market, right? So this makes sense. So you have the least amount of distance to travel from your agricultural thing, whatever it is that you're doing as a farmer, to the market, right? So your best chance of making more money is if you locate closest to the market. Now, Von Thunen was created in the 1800s, so the next ring of Von Thunen is forests. And this is what makes this model outdated. So if you ever get like to what degree, explain the degree to which, say, a Von Thunen model is still relevant today, you would argue that like, yeah, his model's still mostly relevant because we're still going to get our vegetables, even though we're not going to get them maybe from the United States in the wintertime. We'll get them from Mexico. We're certainly going to get them from Mexico versus like, I don't know, Australia, right? Because Mexico's still closer. But what makes this model outdated is that forests usually make up the second ring, and the second ring was forests because back during his time period, forests were of like wood. I shouldn't say forest. Wood was a main use of fuel. And wood is really heavy to transport. And remember, when we learned about Weber, like bulk gaining and bulk reducing, like if something's really heavy, you want to be closer to the market because it costs more money to transport. So that's why forests are the second ring, but that's also why Von Thunen is outdated. Then you get to grains and crops, right? So think about wheat. Think about what part you harvest of wheat. It's literally just like the teeny tiny little top of the wheat. Like you can see like the little grains in the top of the wheat field that you're harvesting. So you actually need a ton of land to make profit if you're going to grow wheat or corn or any of those things. And so you're going to move out of the circle a little bit more because you're going to need more land to grow more crops, to make more money. And then think about how easy it is to actually transport wheat and corn. It's pretty simple, right? You just throw it on a truck. It's pretty light. It's not that big of a deal. Transportation costs aren't that much. So you're going to move outward where you can get more land. And bid rent comes into play with like why circles are located in the places that they are, but I'll explain that in a minute. And then the type of commercial farming that is actually like the most land extensive is ranching and livestock, right? So like this is where you're going to need the most amount of land because now you need plenty of area in order for your livestock to actually eat grasses and so on and so forth. And just ignore the fact that we don't actually follow this principle anymore when we think about like um, feedlots and all that other stuff. So again, that's maybe a limitation of this model. Okay, so that's Von Thunen in a nutshell. It's basically like which agricultural products are going to be located where in relation to the market in order to maximize profits. Now, the other thing that you have to consider is the cost of land, and that's where bid rent comes into play. So bid rent theory argues that the closer you are to the market, which is this R right here, the most expensive the land is going to be. And then the further away from the market that you go, the cost of land goes down. So now we're talking sort of intensive versus extensive agriculture, right? So dairy, market gardening, even wheat to a certain degree is all intensive. But ranching is extensive, right? So if you need a ton of land, you're going to want to locate further away from the market because land is cheapest here. And that way you save money on your land costs because you need so much of it. And the same is true for here. So if you're a dairy farmer or you're growing fruits and vegetables, you may need to be closer to the market because even though the land is more expensive, you're betting on the fact that your profits are still going to be higher because you are going to be closer to the market, which means more of your product will survive that transportation. So that's how these two models work together. They are not the same, but they do sort of help explain one another, right? So there's a couple of things to think about. Von Thunen is just like what's where in relation to the market and why. Bid rent goes into the economic costs of land, which also helps to explain what is where and why. Okay, I hope that helps and it's not too obnoxiously long. I've gotten kind of used to making these videos at this point. So if you have any more questions, just send me another email. Otherwise, have a good night and happy studying.